I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mark, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 8 years now. It's been a roller coaster like any relationship, but honestly, I thought we were solid. We had our ups and downs, sure, but nothing that felt like a deal breaker. That was until our anniversary. We decided to celebrate with a small gathering at our house. Just close friends, a few drinks, good food. Nothing fancy, nothing huge. I was excited. I thought it'd be a nice night to mark the years we'd spent together. Lisa put a lot of effort into the party, which was kinda surprising. She was more animated than usual, joking around, flirting with some of our friends, especially Chris, my best friend. That was strange, but I shrugged it off. Maybe she was just in a good mood or trying to make a good impression. The night went on and everything seemed normal, until I noticed Lisa had been sneaking off into the guest room a lot, usually just for a few minutes. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe she was texting someone or fixing her makeup. But then I saw her slip away again, this time with Chris. I stayed in the living room, pretending to be engaged in conversation, but my ears caught snippets of their muffled voices coming from the guest room. I didn't mean to listen, but I couldn't help it. It was like my brain was on autopilot and I was frozen. That's when I heard her say, "Tonight's gotta be the night, Chris. I can't keep pretending anymore." My stomach clenched and my heart started pounding. She was planning to run away with him. I heard the words so clearly I couldn't deny it. They were talking about leaving town, about starting a new life somewhere far away, maybe even tonight. My mind spun. How long had this been going on? How blind had I been? I always thought Lisa was just a little flirty, maybe a bit bitchy, but this was a betrayal I didn't see coming. I didn't storm in right then. Instead, I stayed in the shadows, listening, trying to process what I just overheard. My stomach twisted, and I felt like I was about to throw up. How could she do this to me, to us? All those years, the promises, the memories, gone in an instant. I replayed every moment, every sign I missed, every subtle hint she dropped that I brushed off. I felt stupid, naive, like I had been so blind I couldn't see what was right in front of me the whole time. When she finally came out of the guest room, I was standing there, frozen. She looked at me with that bitchy smile she always wears when she's trying to act innocent. "Oh, hey, Mark. What are you doing just standing there?" She said like I was the crazy one. I didn't say a word. Instead, I looked her in the eyes and I knew then I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. That was the night my world started to crumble. Every hope I had, every belief in her, shattered in one awful, horrible moment. So I just stood there, staring at her, my mind racing 1,000 miles an hour. I couldn't believe what I had overheard, and now she was acting like she didn't have a care in the world. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and deep sadness all at once. I wanted to lash out, to scream, to demand answers, but part of me just wanted to keep calm and figure out what the hell was going on. I finally managed to get my voice to work. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Lisa, I know about you and Chris. I overheard everything. You're planning to run away with him tonight." Her face didn't change. She just smiled, that bitchy smile of hers, the one that somehow made me feel like I was the crazy one. "Mark, you're overthinking this. You're being paranoid," she said, crossing her arms. It was like she was trying to dismiss what I heard like it was nothing, but I wasn't buying it. I told her I'd heard enough, that I knew exactly what she was planning. Her reaction was classic, denial, then deflection. She started lying right to my face, said I must have misunderstood, that she was just talking to Chris about some stupid business idea and that I was reading too much into it. But I knew better. I knew what I overheard. And I knew she was lying. I felt my blood boiling. How could she lie like that? How could she sit there and pretend she wasn't planning to leave me? My mind flooded with questions. How long has this been going on? Was it just tonight, or had it been going on for months? Every moment I thought we had was suddenly meaningless. I thought I knew her, but I was just a fool. I told her I needed space to think. I didn't yell or scream, at least not yet. I just told her I wanted her to leave the house, to give me some time to process what I'd learned. She pouted, threw in a few more lies, said she loved me, that it was just a mistake, that she never meant to hurt me. But I didn't buy it. I could see right through her. That was the moment I realized I was really, truly done trusting her. After she left the room, I sat alone in the living room, staring into space. My mind was a mess: shock, anger, heartbreak. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind. All those subtle signs, the little things I ignored. The late nights, the vague excuses, her secretive phone calls. It all made sense. Now, she was never really mine, not in the way I believed. She was just pretending, just playing a part until she could run away with him. That night felt like the end of everything I knew. I stayed up, just staring at the dark ceiling, wondering how I'd let it get this far. How did I not see it coming? How could she lie so easily, so convincingly? I thought about confronting her again, about asking her why she did it, but I knew her lies would only get worse. I felt crushed, betrayed, and stupid for ever trusting her. I didn't sleep much that night. When morning finally came, I knew one thing for sure: my life was never going to be the same again. The next morning was a blur. I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, my head pounding, my stomach churning. I kept replaying everything from the night before, trying to find some clarity, some reason for her betrayal. I couldn't understand how she thought she could lie to my face and still expect things to go back to normal. I was angry, but underneath that anger was a deep, aching sadness. I loved her, or at least I thought I did, until I saw her true colors that night. I decided I needed to talk to Chris. I wanted to hear it from him, how long this had been going on, what they planned, and why. I tracked him down that afternoon, found out he was staying at his place about 20 minutes out of town. I wasn't in the mood for pleasantries. I just rang his doorbell and barged in before he even had a chance to say anything. Chris looked surprised, but not exactly guilty, more like he was waiting for me. I could see it in his eyes, that smug look that made me want to punch him in the face. I didn't hold back. I told him I knew everything, that I overheard him and Lisa talking about running away together. I asked him how long he'd been sleeping with my wife, and if they'd already made plans to leave me high and dry. He smirked and shrugged. "Look, man, Lisa's been lonely, you know. She's been telling me how bored she is with your life, how you're always working, never paying her any attention. I didn't plan for any of this, but if she's ready to leave, then hell yeah, I want in. I've always liked her, and honestly, I've been waiting for her to make the move. You're a good guy, but I guess I was just more attractive to her." Hearing that made my blood boil. I clenched my fists so tight I thought my knuckles would break. I wanted to smash something, anything. But I also felt this crushing sense of helplessness. How could I have been so blind? I always thought Chris was my best friend, someone I could trust. Turns out he was just waiting in the wings, ready to stab me in the back. I asked him if they'd already made plans to run away, and he nodded. Said Lisa had been texting him all week, planning to leave everything behind. I couldn't believe it. For years, I thought she was just a little vain, a little bitchy maybe, but I never thought she'd do something so cold and calculated. I felt like I was living in someone else's nightmare. I left his house feeling numb, like I'd just been punched in the gut. I didn't know what to do, where to go from here. That night I came home and saw her sitting on the couch, acting like everything was normal. She looked at me with that same bitchy smile, like she was waiting for me to break down or beg her to stay. I knew I couldn't do that. I was furious, but I also felt an emptiness that was worse than any rage. How could she just sit there and lie to my face after everything? After I trusted her. I didn't say much. Just told her I knew the truth and that I wanted her gone. I told her I didn't want to see her face again until she decided what she really wanted, me or him. She just shrugged and said, "Fine," like it was no big deal. That's when I realized she was already gone, even if her body was still in my house. She was planning her escape and didn't care how much it hurt me. It was like I was just another obstacle in her plan. That night I stayed awake again, staring at the ceiling, questioning everything. How did I let this happen? How did I miss all the signs? I felt so stupid for ever trusting her. I kept thinking about all the moments I ignored her secretive phone calls, her late nights out, her vague excuses. All of it was a lie. Every moment we shared, every promise we made, nothing mattered anymore. I was just another pawn in her game, another fool. In that moment, I realized I had to make a decision. I couldn't keep living like this, with this lie hanging over me. I needed to figure out what was next, whether to fight for my marriage or cut my losses. But deep down, I knew that trust was broken beyond repair. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. I just didn't know yet what that meant for me or how I'd pick up the pieces. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that fake smile, the way she'd lied to me over and over. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it all coming. How did I miss every sign? But the truth was I had been blind, so blind that I did want to see what was right in front of me. I was in shock, and honestly, I felt betrayed on a level I never thought possible. I spent a lot of time alone just thinking, trying to piece together what had gone wrong. I replayed every moment, the late nights she'd said were work emergencies, the phone calls she'd hidden from me, the way she'd always dismiss my concerns with an attitude that was downright bitchy. I knew she'd been lying, but I'd refused to face it. Now, it all came crashing down. Every single thing I thought I knew about her was a lie. My first instinct was to confront her again, demand answers, yell at her, maybe even beg her to stay. But deep down, I knew that was pointless. She'd already made her choice. She'd chosen Chris, and she'd planned her escape for weeks, maybe months. I realized I couldn't undo what was already done. All I could do now was accept it, even if it tore me apart inside. I decided I needed to get some clarity. I reached out to a lawyer just to understand my rights, my options. I didn't want to be the guy who got played and ended up homeless or with nothing. I also reached out to a few close friends, people I trusted, to get their advice. Some told me to fight for her, to make her see what she was losing. Others said to cut my losses and move on. I didn't know what to do yet, but I knew I had to do something. I couldn't keep living in limbo. One night, I finally sat her down. I told her I knew she was planning to leave, that I wasn't stupid. I looked her dead in the eyes and told her she had to choose me or him. She just smirked, that bitchy smile again, and said, "Look, Mark, I don't owe you anything anymore. I'm done pretending, done lying. If I want to leave, I will. You can't stop me." Her words cut deeper than anything I'd ever heard. She made it clear she didn't care about the marriage, about the vows we took. All that mattered was her own happiness, even if that meant destroying everything we had. That moment I realized I wasn't going to get her back. Not with words, not with tears, not with pleading. She'd already made up her mind, and I was just some obstacle she needed to get rid of. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak, and I knew I had to protect myself now. I couldn't keep letting her manipulate me, her lies poisoning everything. I decided then that I'd put my own well-being first, even if it meant walking away from the life I thought we had. The hardest part was knowing I'd lost her, not just as a wife, but as a person I thought I knew. It felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. I questioned everything, my judgment, my trust, my worth. How could someone I loved so much do this to me? How could I have been so blind? I spent nights crying, nights questioning whether I'd ever find someone who truly cared, who wouldn't betray me like this. But through all that pain, I also started to see some clarity. I realized I'd been giving her too much power, that I'd let her manipulate my feelings and doubts. No more. I needed to focus on myself, rebuild what I could, and make sure I never let anyone hurt me like this again. Betrayal was a wake-up call, harsh but necessary. I had to learn to trust myself again, to recognize the warning signs, and to never ignore that little voice telling me something was wrong. Because if I didn't, I'd just end up back in the same place, hurt and betrayed all over again. The decision to move on didn't come easily, but it was the only way I knew I could start healing. I packed up a few things, left her a note explaining that I couldn't be around someone who lied and betrayed me at every turn. I told her I never wanted to see her face again until she was willing to be honest, until she understood what she'd lost. I knew she'd probably try to reach out, maybe guilt me into staying, but I didn't care. I had reached my limit, and I was finally done playing the fool. Once she was out of the house, I felt this strange mix of relief and emptiness. Like the worst part of the nightmare was over, but now I was left alone with the aftermath. I started going to therapy, trying to unpack all the feelings, anger, sadness, humiliation. I needed to understand how I'd let this happen, how I'd been so blind for so long. Each session was a small step toward reclaiming myself, toward remembering that I was still worthy of love and respect, even if I'd been so stupid to trust the wrong person. In the weeks that followed, I cut ties with Chris too. No more calls, no more texts. I blocked her number and all her social media. I didn't want to see her living her lie or pretending everything was fine. Honestly, I still felt angry whenever I saw her name pop up, but I knew I had to distance myself to heal. I also started focusing on myself, going back to old hobbies, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, and trying to rebuild some sense of normalcy. It wasn't easy, and there were days when I felt so lost I wondered if I'd ever be happy again. One thing I realized through all this is how much trust I'd taken for granted. I always believed that Lisa loved me, that we had a real connection, but her actions proved otherwise. It was a harsh lesson that love isn't enough sometimes, that people can hide who they really are behind a pretty face or a false smile. I wish I'd seen the signs earlier, but now I know better. I learned that you have to pay attention to your gut, to the little things that don't add up, because if you ignore them, you risk losing everything. The final blow was accepting that I couldn't control her choices, only my reactions. She chose her path and I had to choose mine. I decided to focus on rebuilding my life, on finding something better, something real. I still miss the woman I thought she was, but I also know I deserve someone who respects me, who values honesty and loyalty. I'm not perfect and I've got scars, but I'm learning to love myself again. That's the only thing that matters now. Looking back, I think I've grown a lot from all this. It's been a brutal, painful lesson, but one that's made me stronger. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone in a similar situation, it's this: trust your instincts. Don't ignore the warning signs, even if it hurts to face them. And never let someone's lies define you. You're worth more than being kept in the dark or used as a pawn. Love yourself enough to walk away, and remember, sometimes the only way to truly move forward is to let go of what you thought was real. In the aftermath of everything, I've come to realize that betrayal leaves scars, but it also teaches you who you really are. I used to think love was supposed to be perfect, that it was enough to build a life on trust and good intentions. Now I see that honesty and loyalty are the foundation. Without those, everything else crumbles, no matter how much you want it to hold. Since she left, I've been working hard on rebuilding my sense of self. I've started going to therapy regularly, not just to process what happened, but to heal the deep wounds she left behind. I've reconnected with friends I'd drifted away from, and I've thrown myself into work and hobbies I used to love. The pain still lingers, but it's different now. Less raw, more manageable. I'm learning to forgive myself for missing the signs and to accept that sometimes people are just not who they seem. Looking back, I understand that I was naive, but I also know I was giving her the benefit of the doubt for too long. That's something I'll never do again. It's a hard lesson, but it's one I needed. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone reading this, it's to trust your instincts above all else. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore the little voice inside that tells you to pay attention, because once you're caught in the lie, it's almost impossible to go back. I've learned that anger and sadness are part of the process, but they don't define me. What defines me now is the resilience to move forward, to rebuild what's broken, and to remember that I'm still worthy of love and respect. I may have been blindsided, but I refuse to let her betrayal define the rest of my life. I'll keep going, keep healing, and someday, I hope to find someone who truly values honesty, loyalty, and the kind of love that's built to last. This story is my cautionary tale about trusting too much, about ignoring the signs, and about the importance of standing up for yourself when the truth finally comes out. Because in the end, the only person who can truly protect your heart is you, and no matter how dark things get, there's always a way forward. Sometimes you just have to face the storm, let it pass, and then look ahead to the brighter days.